My sister collapsed at work, and they laughed. A nurse hit the ground in front of her colleagues, and no one even moved. Someone said, "Guess she couldn't handle another double." Another chuckled. In that bright hospital hallway filled with posters about compassion and care. Compassion was the only thing missing. That was the moment I decided someone was going to pay. My sister, Emma, worked at St. Lorraine Hospital for 9 years. 9 years of night shifts, skipped meals, and fake smiles. She believed in what she did. She believed in healing. But the hospital didn't. St. Lorraine was a machine that ate people like her alive. She trained new residents who later mocked her. She cleaned up after surgeons who threw instruments when things went wrong. She covered shifts for nurses who cried in supply rooms. And every time she asked for a raise, her supervisor, head nurse Dalton, smiled and said, "You're lucky to have a stable job, dear." That phrase haunted her. Lucky. As if surviving exploitation was a privilege. Last year, she reported a senior doctor for falsifying a patient's chart to hide a fatal dosage error. That doctor got promoted. Emma got moved to nights and written up for insubordination. She didn't fight. She needed the insurance for our mom's medication. I flew in to visit her one February afternoon. She didn't answer my calls. When I reached her apartment, her uniform was still hanging by the door. My phone rang, an unfamiliar number. "This is St. Lorraine Hospital. Your sister's had an incident." When I arrived, the ER smelled of bleach and burnt coffee. She was on a gurney, pale, shaking, whispering, "It hurts." Her colleagues stood by, scrolling their phones. Dr. Connor Hayes, the attending physician, didn't even look up. "She's fine. Probably dehydration." Then he chuckled. And the intern laughed with him. I stepped forward. "She's not fine, look at her lips." He rolled his eyes. "Ma'am, we know how to handle nurses who panic." Minutes passed. Her pulse dropped. Her fingers turned blue. Still, no one moved. 2 hours later, her heart stopped. Then they panicked. They shouted for help, rushed with defibrillators, and pretended it wasn't their fault. They brought her back, but 3 minutes too late. 3 minutes without oxygen. 3 minutes of laughter instead of help. Dr. Hayes told me afterward. "Some people just can't handle stress." That smirk, that tone, burned into me. They thought it was over. They thought I'd just cry. They didn't know me. Emma woke up days later. Her speech was slow. Her memory, fractured. She couldn't stand for long. She'd survived, but not completely. The hospital sent flowers and a bill. No one apologized. No one was suspended. When I asked about the internal report, Nurse Dalton said, "Accidents happen. You should be thankful she's alive." That night, I went through Emma's laptop. She'd kept everything: incident reports, private memos, error logs. A folder labeled "For later." Inside were emails about expired medication being reissued. Patients charged for procedures they never received. And staff coerced to falsify time logs to meet budget goals. Her notes ended 2 weeks before she collapsed. The last one read, "They're hiding something big. I need proof first." She'd almost uncovered it. Now I would finish what she started. I began by following the money. Most budget reductions flowed into a consulting firm called Truwell Partners. The firm didn't exist. It was a shell owned by the hospital director's cousin. Every stolen dollar came from supply cutbacks and staff efficiency programs. That was the reason there weren't enough nurses that day. That's why no one helped her. They were understaffed, under fear, and overworked. Still, that didn't excuse laughter. I needed proof the leadership knew. So I called an old college friend, Melissa, now an investigative journalist. She told me, if you want justice, you'll need something they can't bury. Over the next month, I built my case. Quietly. Patiently. I reached out to every coworker who still had a conscience. Janine, a night nurse, cried when I called. We all saw what happened. But the hospital told us to say she just fainted. If I speak, I'll lose my job. I told her, you won't. I'll make sure they lose theirs first. Then came Luis, the janitor. He handed me a small flash drive, whispering, cameras don't lie. That night, I watched it. Grainy footage from the ER hallway. Emma fell, clutching her chest. She tried to speak, reaching out toward the nurse's desk. Dr. Hayes looked up, smirked, and turned away. The timestamp showed 1:26 p.m. He didn't call for help until 1:49. The video had sound. You could hear him laugh. I knew what I had to do. I didn't shout. I didn't post it online. Not yet. I sent copies to the State Medical Board, the hospital's biggest donor, and a journalist at the Tribune. Then I waited. It took 3 days. The headline exploded. Hospital nurse collapses, colleagues laugh, investigation uncovers fraud. Within hours, sponsors withdrew funding. The board called an emergency meeting. Dr. Hayes went on television claiming family harassment. The reporter played the video. He froze. His face went pale. He walked off camera. By the next morning, the director was under federal audit. By the end of the week, the hospital's funding was suspended. And every department head was subpoenaed. But I wasn't finished. They tried to throw Dr. Hayes under the bus, call him a bad apple. So I released the second file. Internal emails showing the director instructing staff to minimize testing for uninsured patients. One email literally said, time is money, don't waste it on charity cases. The public turned furious. The hospital's social media pages flooded with stories of neglect. Dozens of ex-patients came forward. 3 other nurses joined the lawsuit. A month later, St. Lorraine Hospital shut down. The director was indicted for fraud and manslaughter. Dr. Hayes lost his license. Head nurse Dalton fled the state. And my sister? She received a settlement large enough to buy her freedom. A year later, she opened her own clinic on the South Side. No sponsors, no marble floors, no fake smiles. Just care. Real care. She called it the Quiet Ward. Reporters asked her about the name. She smiled slowly. Because quiet doesn't mean weak. It just means we're waiting for the right moment. I visited her on opening day. She was standing, steady now, sunlight on her face. I handed her a gift bag. Inside, a stethoscope and a card that said, next time they laugh while you fight for your life, make sure you own the building they're standing in. Never underestimate the quiet ones. We don't scream. We observe. We remember. And when we strike, we make sure it's permanent.